All right, Math Hustlers, this is Mr. Heath, and what I'm going to do is talk about the Thanksgiving holiday math packet that I gave you. All right, so is this packet here? I did keep this loose, so the page may be out of order, but I truly believe they're still in order. If not, you'll see by the page numbers as we're going through this what you have to do and whatnot. All right, so you have your first page there, your name, the date I gave it to you or not, and then the day you're going to return it to 26 in your cohort. In the back of there'll be some information about what type of topics you'll be dealing with in this packet. Multiplication, division, subtraction, addition of integers, a touch of converting fractions into decimals and decimals into fractions, and some one-step equations. All right, so let's go through this. So the first one you have here has, what is it in the upper right-hand corner? It says lesson 12, 12.2T, and then it has the number 141. So you should have 141 down there, right? So let's take a look at that page. Well, that page we didn't actually go over the topics involved. This is involving division of integer numbers. We didn't do any rules of multiplying or dividing integer numbers, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide some insights and give you a strategy that works every time when it comes to multiplying and dividing integer numbers, and then do some sample ones so you can see how you have this laid out properly for me when it comes to answering them, all right? So let's take a look at some rules here. A big important rule here is this. Division, multiplication of negative integer numbers. We're really concerned about negative numbers here when we talk about multiplication of integer numbers, because two positive numbers is a positive number. Let's think of 5 times 5. The product of 5 and 5 is 25. So I'm really going to focus on negative numbers here, or negative integers. So it says that division, multiplication of negative integer numbers. Here's a strategy that you can apply. When you count up an odd amount of negative integer signs, your product or quotient will be negative. What does that mean? Okay, so what does that mean? So it's going to erase this board. So you're going to have to go back and freeze it if you want to hear the explanation again or rewind something like that. So let's erase this. Give some examples here that'll make quick sense. So let's say I have negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1. Well, let's count the amount of negative signs. There, there. 1, 2, 3. We know from our prior knowledge that 3 is what type of number? An odd number. So 3 is an odd number, and I hope that handwriting is, so 3 is an odd number. So knowing that 3 is an odd number, we immediately got our product, and our product is going to be negative 1. Notice that. An odd number. Let's go and extend out the negative 1 so you can see this rule doesn't change just because numbers get bigger. So we'll go here. Negative 1 times 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 negative 1. So let's go ahead once again, count the amount of negative signs. Okay, so 1, let me just do it this way. So 1, go here 2, go here 3, go here 4, go here 5, go here 6, go here 7. So as you look at this, you recognize that you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 negative signs. I have an odd amount of negative signs. So once again, the answer is going to be what? Negative. And obviously 1 times 1 times 1. So our answer is going to be negative 1 there. Let's see this idea applied in a little different context, but as soon as you see it, you'll understand that it really doesn't change anything. All right, so I'm going to erase this. Let's say you have a situation like this. Let's say that, oh, what the heck? I have a whole bunch of negative ones, but they're mixed in with integers that don't have negative sign. Well, let's remember the rule. Let's count the negative signs. I'm going to put this down and go through the process. 1, 2, 3. Once again, take a look. 1 negative sign, 2 negative sign, 3 negative signs, negative. Odd number, 3. Put my negative there. Of course, in the situation, we're just doing times 1. There you have it. So remember, the big rule is that if you see an odd amount of integer signs, not integer numbers, but the actual signs themselves, 1, 2, 3, your product, your quotient, whatever it is. Let's do some quotients so no one freaks out. Your quotient is going to be negative. Let me erase this. And notice I'm using small numbers. Why? That's to make things easy for you to understand, but it works with larger numbers, okay? Let's do a little division that's slightly larger. Let's say, well, no, division's a pain in the keister if I do it that way. Let's just go negative 1 divided by negative 1 divided by negative 1. Better situation, a more realistic situation. Negative 4 divided by 2, and then we'll say minus 1. I'm dividing here. I have an odd amount. Notice, I have 1 here. So when I divide here, the old Tiger Woods, as my student knows, you go here, you'll have negative 2 minus 1. Why negative 2? Because notice I have an odd amount of negative signs here, so that becomes negative 2 and negative 1 there. Division ones are pretty interesting, so we don't get a lot of that, but I did want to give you a more typical one, and they do get a little more complex. But I think right now we'll just leave with the idea of just finding the quotient of 2 numbers or 3 numbers. But yeah, with multiplication, because we do multiply quite a bit more, I wanted to extend out the rule to you about the negative ones. All right, so now let's move. Let's finish this out. Okay. 2 negatives, 1 more negative, negative 3. What's your answer? There it is. Negative 3 is your answer. All right. So now let's talk about if you have an even amount of negatives. So that was this first strategy. If you see an odd amount of negative signs when you're multiplying or dividing, your quotient or product will be negative. Well, you probably know. If you have an even amount of negatives, well, let's just read it. It says division, multiplication of negative integer numbers. When you count up an even amount of negative integer signs, your product or quotient will be positive. Look at that, please, if you need to. Let me erase this. Now let's actually go and talk a little bit about it. What does that mean? So let's see what that looks like, just in terms of computation-wise. Let's go here. All right. So notice here. 1, 2, oops, 2. We got a 2 there. 2 is an even number. And because 2 is an even number, the product of negative 1 and negative 1 is going to be positive 1. All right, let's expand that idea out just a little bit more, makes it a little bigger. So we're going to leave this alone right here. We'll do like that. Then we'll go negative 1, negative 1, negative 1, negative 1. Right. We're not going to go a negative times a negative is positive. A positive times a negative is negative. A negative times a negative is positive. We're not going to do that. We're going to go. Okay. I'll just because it's faster. 1, 2, 3. And obviously you would count this up in your head, but I just want to go ahead and model it out. Hey, 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 negative signs I see. Guess what? Each have an even amount of negative signs when I count. When I'm finding the quotient, when I count, when I find the quotient or the product, notice 1, 2, 3, 4. This is going to be what? Positive. All right. So the resulting answer there is 1. So I use a small number here. I went to bigger. If I went to 6, if I went to 8, 10, 12, whatever, I still would have a positive quotient or product. So that's a big rule that you're going to use here. So let's take a look at your paper you'll be working on. Here's what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is for you to, it says the quotient of negative 56 and negative 7. Well, we'll just put down here, oops. Hello. One negative sign, two negative signs. Hey, an even amount of negative signs. I'm going to go ahead and put down there 8. Not negative 8, positive 8, remember? Because I have one negative sign, a second negative sign. I'm dividing just those two, 8 there. Let's go down here and find something a little different. Okay, let's go to, was that number 3 here? So number 3, let me get a little closer. I do apologize. Oh, look at that first one there. First one there. Okay, first one there, okay? All right, so let's take a look at number 3. Let's see, number 3. Let's take a look at number 3 right here. So number 3 has what? It has one negative sign. Therefore, whatever this quotient is going to be, I got to go ahead and put a negative sign. So let's do that right now. A negative sign. Actually, let me put this on a larger paper. So you know we're going to put the answers just in these small spaces here. You don't have to do any work on the side. So I have an odd amount of negative numbers here. So 56 divided by negative 8. I'm going to put the more algebraic way that we do. All right, do the old Tiger Woods on that one. You're going to have negative 7 as your resulting answer. Why? All right, we're going to leave that alone. You should be good to go. And that will take care, let's see what pages that will take care of. That will take care of page 141. And that will take care of page 166. What else? And it will assist you on page, what is this? S61. S61 will assist you on that page as well. Let's see, I think that would be, oh, it will also assist you on page S63. This video will help you on page S63 as well, okay? It will also assist you on page S64. Assist with page S64. And it will help you out with and assist you with page 182. Page 182. All right, so we got those. And it will assist you with page S65. Let me get that. Page S65 as well. So you can see that this video will help you with a lot of pages from your packet. All right. So let's go ahead and